We're starting with Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah, who warned that any Israeli assassination in Lebanese territory would lead to a strong reaction in response to reports that Israel could target Hamas officials in the country. Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah issued a stern warning to Israel against targeting a senior Hamas leader residing in Lebanon. The leader of the Iran-backed militia group vowed that any such aggression on Lebanese soil would be met with retaliation. Nasrallah's caution came as tensions between Israel and Hamas escalate. An undisclosed Arab nation's intelligence delegation is scheduled to arrive in Beirut, according to the Lebanese Nida al-Watan newspaper. Their mission to mediate the brewing conflict between Israel and Hamas. The timing of this meeting couldn't be more crucial, with Israeli threats to eliminate Saleh Al-Arouri, a key Hamas figure residing in Lebanon. Speculation surrounds the identity of the visiting delegation, with Egypt being a prime guest. This effort is focused on conveying the potential consequences of a conflict escalation in Lebanon, a country already grappling with a severe economic crisis. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's threats to target Al-Arouri drew strong reactions. The Hezbollah-affiliated Al-Manar TV network has highlighted these threats, while Hamas brushed them off as empty. Hamas vowed to respond accordingly to any Israeli aggression. Amid these developments, concerns are growing among Palestinians that Israel might resort to a policy of targeted assassinations, with Al-Arouri being a prime target. This fear has prompted Palestinian terror factions to bolster security measures in both Lebanon and the Gaza Strip. On the backdrop of these apprehensions, Hassan Nasrallah warned that any Israeli assassination attempt in Lebanon would trigger a potential response. He downplayed the efficacy of such threats, asserting that they only strengthen the determination and resilience of resistance groups.
Experience the power of truth with ILTV News. If you're looking for quality content and captivating visuals, join our news community and become an integral part of our team as we embark on a mission to unveil the real Israel, dismantling the web of lies and misinformation that surround reporting on Israel. By subscribing to ILTV News, you will not only have access to the latest updates, but you will also amplify our message, creating a ripple effect that carries the truth far and wide. Subscribe today and help reshape the narrative. Available on the web, Android, and Apple.
And joining us now to elaborate on the latest escalating tensions and yet another Nasrallah threat is Brigadier General in the Reserves, Amir Avivi. Amir, how did this all unfold? Netanyahu's threat to target Saleh Al-Arouri, Nasrallah's response after that, and so on. And also, who is Al-Arouri actually?
So, Saleh Al-Arouri is basically a Hamas leader who is located in Beirut, and he's basically coordinating all the terror of Hamas from Beirut, around Israel, and also looking at Judea and Samaria. The rocket shooting we saw, attacks of Hamas in Judea and Samaria. So he's probably the #1 terrorist that Israel would like to target. And it comes as no surprise that Prime Minister Netanyahu spoke specifically about him. This guy long ago should have targeted. And he also basically makes the connection between Hamas to Hezbollah and Iran. So this is quite a prominent figure talking about terrorists.
Now, Amir, looking at Netanyahu, why would he issue a public threat and really not, as Israel usually does, quietly behind the back?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's probably better to do things quiet. When I was at the camp of the Chief of General Staff, I saw the way the IDF and the Mossad and the Shabak are able to really carry out targeted attacks against terrorists anywhere on the globe. And usually these kind of things you need to be quiet about and do it and simply do the job. So I don't really know why the Prime Minister felt he needs to talk about that.
Now, talking about this unnamed Arab country's intelligence delegation arriving in Beirut to address the conflict, what can be done now to prevent an escalation between Israel, between Hezbollah and Hamas, of course?
Iran is pressuring Hezbollah to be more active. Hezbollah, on one hand, wants to be more active and challenge Israel. On the other hand, they don't want a full-scale war. Lebanon is in a terrible situation. Hezbollah is challenged inside Lebanon by different groups, and it's not for their best interest to really have a full-scale war against Israel. But when you start and you try to carry out specific terror attacks, you don't know how it will end. We saw how surprised was Nasrallah following the kidnapping of Israeli soldiers from the fact that Israel went to a war, the second Lebanon war. And this really surprised him. I don't think he wants to be surprised again. In his speech, he talked about the prime minister's mentioning Al-Arouri, and I think he's worried about Israel's capability to really target specific terrorists anywhere, whether it's in Syria or in Lebanon, as Israel has done before. So I'm not expecting Hezbollah to really push for the full-scale war, but definitely to try and challenge us along the border.
Yes, now we're also seeing Nasrallah accusing UNIFIL of potentially serving Israeli interests. How does this accusation align with recent developments, and what could it really mean for regional security?
I think that the main problem Israel is seeing is that UNIFIL is not really doing its job. We see now the Minister of Defense, Gallant, visiting the UN, talking about the need of the UN through UNIFIL, to actually prevent Hezbollah from deploying along the border. This is not happening. Hezbollah is basically doing whatever it wants along the border. I think that the reality is the opposite. Instead of UNIFIL doing the job and serving the world's interests and also Israel's interests, they're actually letting Hezbollah basically do whatever they want along the border, completely against the Security Council resolution following the second Lebanon war.
Mere tensions and threats have been back and forth for a while right now, and we're not getting rid of them anytime soon. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met a delegation of Swedish lawmakers at his office in Jerusalem on Monday, thanking them for a change in Sweden's policy towards Israel and hinting at the Swedish embassy move to Jerusalem. And Iltv's William Sharon has the details.
In a significant diplomatic move, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu welcomed a delegation of Swedish members of parliament at his office in Jerusalem. The purpose of the meeting was twofold: to express gratitude for their support in relocating the Swedish embassy to Jerusalem and recognizing their efforts in combating anti-Semitism. The discussion, however, extended beyond diplomatic matters, delving into enhanced collaboration between the two nations. Prime Minister Netanyahu praised the Swedish delegation for their unwavering support, emphasizing the shift in Swedish policy as a positive change that has been overdue. The meeting also provided a platform to deliberating and reinforcing bilateral cooperation in cutting-edge sectors. The leaders explored the potential for joint innovations in technology, artificial intelligence, and automotive industry. Netanyahu stated, "I want to thank you for your great support and constant support for Israel. Our partnership could yield great results in many, many areas, and I think this is an important beginning, so thank you and welcome." The meeting wasn't only a diplomatic interaction, but also a gathering of minds committed to exploring avenues of cooperation and mutual benefits. Alongside Benjamin Netanyahu were prominent officials, including the Director of National Security Council, the Cabinet Secretary, the Prime Minister's Foreign Policy Advisor, and others participated in discussions.